The Brewtally Speaking podcast is proudly sponsored by Starving Artist Brewing. Starving Artist Brewing may be a small speck on Michigan's beer map, but they say big things come in small packages. A brewery who really puts their money where their mouth is, supporting underground artists far and wide. Making delicious beers with the simple belief that you should judge beer, not people. Brewtally Speaking podcast is proudly sponsored by albeit.com. With over 500,000 officially licensed items in their online store, you're guaranteed to find something you need. Use our code BREWtally and get 10% off your total purchase order. Now on to the show.
People say you have to have a lot of passion for what you're doing. This rings true because it's so hard that if you don't, any rational person would give up. It's really hard. And you have to do it over a sustained period of time. So if you don't love it, and if you're not having fun doing it, you're gonna give up.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Brewtally Speaking podcast. I am your host, John. This episode's guest is with Jyrki 69, vocalist of the 69 Eyes, as well as the 69 Cats. And this is a fun chat. It's a little brief thing because we were in the middle of a press junket, or I should say Jyrki was, but was still an opportunity I leapt at nonetheless. He and I have been actually trying to have him come back on the podcast for a little while, and obviously dealing with a vampire and their weird habits and hours. Just kind of was a little bit hard to lock down a time that worked for both of us, but I was very excited to have him back on the show. Always somebody that I enjoy talking with, and is obviously one of those things where me being a fan of the band for 21 years now, I think. If I remember correctly, the first record I was introduced to the band on was Paris Kills, and I want to say that came out roughly 2002, I want to say, so like my senior year of high school, right around the same time I had gotten into him, around, right before Love Metal came out. Someone had shown me a copy of Deep Shadows and Highlights, Deep Shadows and Brilliant Highlights, there we go, and said if I was into this band that I should check out another band called the 69 Eyes, and it was a thing where kind of, the fandom and love of the band kind of started way back then, kind of combining elements of gothic music, or goth music as it kind of has become known, sounding a little bit like Typo Negative at times, and Sisters of Mercy, and a lot of just melding of elements that I love, and a lot of different styles and genres of music, but done in a way that I hadn't really heard, honestly, like tinges of Billy Idol and kind of like that 80s rock and glam rock and stuff like that, and just kind of a fun band. And there was always this kind of serious undertone to the band that I don't really think a lot of people pick up on. Maybe they do, but by and large, it seems when I listen to other people interview someone from the band, or read reviews on the band itself, the albums or live shows or whatever, I feel like everyone thinks of the band as kind of tongue-in-cheek. That's kind of the phrase that I see and hear an awful lot. And I feel like it actually, like, it does apply to the band, but I think it's such a discredit to what they're doing, because I think people are kind of missing some of the deeper things that they're singing about and they're talking about, and it kind of takes away from the skilled musicianship of the band. And there are a lot of people like that. I think Steel Panther is another great example. A lot of people are, they're a fun band, they're just a throwback band, and a lot gets said about what they do, and lyrically maybe they're not on a serious level talking about anything of real importance, unless banging hookers, getting STDs, and drugs and all that is of value of seriousness. But I do think it kind of discredits the level of musicianship that all of those people in Steel Panther have had and do have. I think it discredits things. And I think we need to kind of step away from that, kind of being complimentary in a backhanded way to bands and artists and even athletes. I was thinking about this in correlation today. I went in on my day off to kind of work with the new store manager next door on building schedules and helping him do the first set of schedules he's done since taking over. And it was a thing where I walked into my store and, I now have a new employee working there from next door, and kind of was just kind of acclimating them to kind of how things go over here, what to expect, so on and so forth. And I happened to walk into a conversation between a customer and my employee. And, they were talking about, who's the best, is it Michael Jordan? Is it Kobe Bryant? Is it, LeBron? Especially in light of these playoffs that are happening right now. And the game had happened the night before, when I'm recording this. And it was a thing where I go, I think too often we as fans of things don't appreciate things in real time. We don't appreciate something because of our blind loyalty to something, whether it's a team, it's a player, it's our own feelings, how we've been raised, whatever. You can kind of take it further beyond, sports, music, whatever. You can apply it to a lot of different things. And as I think about it, I think a lot of times we need to really just appreciate things in real time. I go, was I a huge Michael Jordan fan? Absolutely not. I watched him a ton, living in the Midwest. Obviously, I got to see him a ton. But it was a thing where I go back now and I watch something like The Last Dance, or I listen to other interviews of people who played with this, with Michael Jordan or the Kobes and so forth. And I feel like too often we're so blind to these things of like, I can't like this person because of our prejudices or whatever, that it becomes this thing where it isn't until someone, in the case of Kobe in this instance, he passed away. He's no longer here. We don't get to appreciate him. And if you didn't at the time, you don't kind of get to make amends, for lack of a better term. And I know this is something I've kind of talked about on the show a lot, of appreciating people when they exist. But I think it goes to art beyond that as well. I think at times we can be kind of condescending to the art that we like, or maybe we don't like something now, but it grows with us over time and becomes something more. And in the case of the 69 Eyes, and especially with this last record, the most recent record that just dropped a week ago as of when I'm recording this, it's a thing where, you look at like the song that was inspired by Escape from New York, the John Carpenter movie. And yeah, it's kind of fun and and all that, but it's like, I think both the song and the movie were kind of talking about social commentary, where we currently were with the world that we were going to be inhabiting and leaving or living in. It's interesting to go back and look at some of the films from my youth of the 80s and so forth and early 90s, and the expectations that there were of what the world was going to be in 2020. Look at like a Demolition Man and how far off it is, but also not entirely. Like, one of the things that I think has been interesting about it is how jingles became popular radio in Demolition Man. And essentially now with TikTok having only 30 seconds bursts of a song that can make a song popular, where you're knowing it for something, it almost becomes a jingle. So in some instances, some of our art that we take in different mediums does inform kind of what our future may be. Or, they may have it wrong, but I mean, again, looking at Demolition Man, Taco Bell was like the creme de la creme of restaurants. And in that time, it was laughable then, but look at what fast food has kind of become. It has changed, and it's not the same fast food that we know it to be before. Now you're seeing these kind of, it's not quite a restaurant, but it's not fast food either. Things are trying to cater to kind of the healthier lifestyle, different options than just those things. So it's not entirely far-fetched either that has become a bit of a reality. But it's just a thing I've been thinking about a lot more, about not appreciating things in real time, because we kind of don't give it its due. And I definitely think the 69 Eyes, you may look at them, you may listen to, a song like The Lost Boys, that's a really popular song of theirs. I would encourage you to go further back into the discography and find really great stuff. I think Paris Kills is a great introduction to that band, where they came from, and kind of that transitionary period of what they became more of on a mainstream level. But I think there's a lot of stuff like Dance the Armor that's a great fucking song. There's so much to like about this band that I don't understand. If you are a fan of rock or industrial or tinges of a lot of things, I think there will be something here for you. And that's why I enjoy talking to Jyrki, because I can talk to him about so many things. And in that regard, he's the perfect guest to have on a show like this. So without further ado, this is my conversation with Jyrki, and let's get into it, and I'll talk to you on the other side of it. How you doing?
Great.
Seems I had the old Skype. For
Oh
you.
yeah. All right. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I've been doing this through Zoom recently, but this works. So
Oh, yeah.
why not?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Prior to the pandemic, and when
Mhm.
Zoom and all these other things started popping up, I was like, Skype still exists, and there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, we have actually like 25 minutes, so
No
we
worries.
better get starting.
Yeah.
Cool.
No, I mean, this is really just kind of a conversation anyway, but I mean, I do want to talk about the new record a little bit as
Sure.
well, just because,
Cool.
I'm going to kind of make this, just kind of right out the gate. This Murder Takes Two was such a welcome surprise, when getting the record in the email. And, over 30 years into your career, you're still able to throw longtime fans curveballs that we don't know what to expect from you still. I mean,
Great.
how is it on your end to just kind of still being able to, find innovative ways to keep pushing what the 69 Eyes is and can be even for yourself?
Well, I think we are actually at this moment we are like we're kind of dangerously good at the right now at right now, like live. We've been playing continuously like half a year and did a European tour, and we're dangerously good. And I think with this record it's also like you said, we're dangerously like pretty fucking good. So we're getting there, right? So there's no routine, there's no like business as usual thinking ever. I mean, and I think last decade we were at some point in a limbo of like this kind of routine of like rat race, like
Mm-hmm.
which like long time bands face, like especially in the metal genre, that you put out an album tour, and then put interviews and recording and writing there as well as part of that, and then basically nothing leads to anywhere. I mean, it's cool to maintain your position and get into that, even that rat race like kind of way of handling things or being creative. But like I wasn't satisfied, so that's why I escaped that and had a couple of solo albums and even a rockabilly outfit for a little while, and then like we last time spoke, had a chance to bring the 69 Eyes back to the States, which was something that we were like really like looking forward to after 10 years. Now, as all of a sudden the world stopped, we had a chance to play here in Finland quite a few shows, like as soon as it was possible. But then we needed a new record label. Our everything, like our contracts ended and things like this, and then like we ran into this our old A&R guy, who was like our A&R guy back in 2004, when and those years when most people know us from that period of time, songs like Lost Boys, Never Say Die. So this guy was there, and he was like helped us to concentrate on the quality of the songs then. And now, as we ran into him, we decided to start to do music under his supervision once again, and he encouraged us just to write songs and let's start to put out singles, like every pop artist these days have been doing that for a few years, nearly a decade, that they just release new singles, new music, new anthems for us, and maybe later on they collect them as an album. So we started this in the same vein as being a pop artist, just to like write new music, put out single, see the feedback, see if the song leads us anywhere to radio station playlists, and it kept everything fresh. So basically, we just enjoyed like being very present for fans and here, especially here in Finland, for mainstream public, because all of a sudden these songs also get to a lot of airplay here, which hadn't happened for some 15 years. I mean, our music is still played on radio here on regular basis, but those songs are like from those times 15 years ago. And I was thinking like, okay, well, a cult band that tours around the world, but could we try to write a couple of songs that still matter for like for in the music soundscape of the present day here in Finland? And that started to happen because this A&R guy encouraged us to start to just write songs, good songs, and let's release them. So that was going on for a little while, and between that we were writing all the time new music, and then we had like a collection of songs for an album, and still we were releasing singles. And now as the album came out, all comes out like in a week. I had it as a CD like last weekend, and I actually sit down and listen to it as a CD. And those songs we've been those singles which are on the album, we've been playing them at our shows, and I sort of, how could I say, they were introduced me again in a different way as they were on the album. Our guitarist spent like I think ridiculously long, probably like a month, like thinking of the song order on the album. He really it was really going back and forward, and I couldn't care less. But now I understand. It's yeah, you know what? Come on, I was interested in once again going somewhere else. I want an adventure all the time. So let this guy too. I mean, who listens to the whole album? But like I did, I put the CD on and I listened to it, and it's magnificent. All these singles together in a certain order made a whole new experience for me as well, and it was an album, and it's a crazy strong album with 5 strong singles, and then there's coming up a couple of more singles, you know, like after it's released. Like on the release date, we're gonna put out this song, "This Murder Takes Two," that you mentioned, with Kat Von D, and also a video of it. Oh, so wow. You know, so it's like yeah. So it's a different way of doing things. Nothing new in some other genres, but hard rock, metal scene. It's not that typical, but you know, like for as being on the creative side, that was the best ever, and I like to, you know, like probably continue this way. I mean, we're not gonna be quiet next 4 years. Why? You know,
right.
Like what the fuck, man? I mean, like it doesn't. I want to put out new music as soon as we have chance to go to the studio again, and you know, like let's keep the music coming out of us, and you know, like that's and because I want to be present. I have FOMO, you know, fear of missing out. You know, I like to. Do you say FOMO?
FOMO.
I don't know. FOMO, yeah. So it's like I have my fucking FOMO. I wanna be present. You know, I wanna be out. I wanna be active in this way. I wanna rock out. You know, I gotta rock. That's the anthem.
Well, I think like the other thing to it to me is I think a lot of artists, I think we're just kind of stuck for the longest time of, like you said, the rat race, the constant cycle of, you know, write new songs, tour, or promote the thing, tour, go back to the studio, rinse, wash, repeat ad nauseum. And then it's like, I think the pandemic kind of allowed everyone to almost essentially kind of become a new band again, where everyone kind of got to work in the quiet, in the shadows, and work on something that is almost akin to making a first record again, where no one knows what to expect and you just get to put it out and then go, here it is, here is who we are. Granted, the luxury is you have a 30-year back catalog and all the fans waiting for it, but I don't think anyone really knew that, you know, there was going to be this album coming so quickly, and that, I mean, I don't know. To me, like, when I listened to this record, you know, I kept having this feeling, and I kept making this observation to myself, but like, this felt like a love letter to rock and roll's past put through like the 69 Eyes lens, like with little nods and homages to like Johnny Cash on Murder Takes Two. Sundown kind of has like a cult feel to it to me.
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
And it's one of those things that, you know, it reminds me of growing up kind of in the mid 80s, watching MTV, seeing like the, you know, the cult, Billy Idol, like all these different styles and genres of music just being so accessible for one of the first times, and still kind of having a foot, for me and my parents anyway, to the 70s and the 60s and so forth. And it just kind of feels like you guys have taken everything that is rock and roll, or everything that is kind of pop culture, and in like this wheelhouse, and still find ways, like I said, to pay homage but still sound uniquely like you have always done. And I gotta say, I feel like that's gotta be because there's, as far as I know, there has been no lineup changes in the band over the entirety of the band. So I gotta feel like that adds something to it as well, a little bit of the secret ingredient.
Well, like I said, we just thank you for that, for those comments, and that's very beautiful how you put the words. And I got excited by myself, like, wow, what is this band he's talking about? I like to go to check that out. But it's like also like I don't know. Think about that. I don't think that I'm like kind of stuck anywhere. But I mean, if we go to bar, I will tell you stories of Johnny Thunders or you know, like 80s in Helsinki or you know, like those kind of things that I experienced. But I'm not looking forward them like back, like they should come back. But I'm sort of like carrying on the torch and some memories and good vibes from there, and throw that to the music. But also like with this record, it sounds fresh as well, because we had a producer guy who's younger than us, and previously when we have been in the studio and like have been thinking like, oh hey, this song might need a 80s synthesizers. The producers have been the guys who have been actually doing music, recording music and producing music in the 80s. So they're like, okay, cool, I'll put them in. And they're the real deal 80s synthesizers and sounds. Now, even though we wanted that to happen like 2001 or something, but still, so it felt like it was extremely long time ago. And then it was like, hey, it would be super fun to have like Depeche Mode or Duran Duran kind of synthesizers here, like 2001. I think it's like just a little over 10, like 12 years ago. It was the 80s or something, and we're like, oh, that's so long time ago. So now, and then those guys were like, yeah, I know exactly where to get that sound, and most likely they just wiped the dust away from the machine in the corner and plug that somehow in, and okay, here we have them. So, but now we have this young guy who's like, oh hey, this, and we were talking, and this could be cool. This song could be cool to have like this kind of, now you call it synth wave. Where the hell that word came from, I don't know, but that's like the 80s sound, you know, synth wave sound. And then we have this young guy, so he's like, oh hey, let's have like 80s keyboards there, and we're like, that could work. And then he creates like, I have, you know, like this marks around the word like 80s synthesizers according to his imagination. I mean, he wasn't there. He thinks that they sounded something like that or this, and then he creates them. So obviously they sound like fresh. Like if you actually listen to this synthwave music, those guys who are making it in a song or some or even in like just records and stuff, like they sound like authentic, but somehow there's always some like fresh flavor, you know. So you know, that's why I think our record sounds and feels fresh, because it's not done by veterans. You can call us veterans, but you know, like it's done by there's a young like a producer and young enthusiasm behind to make it bring it something that it makes it still fresh, to put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the timing of us doing our conversation is like very serendipitous because I got the record a little while ago, uh, and immediately threw it on when I went and took my dog for our morning walk, and in that span of time, kind of give you a little backstory, like I'd kind of fallen out of love with listening to music for a while because doing this podcast for almost 7 years now, I got to the point where instead of listening to an album to enjoy it, I listen to it as almost like work, like where it's like, all right,
Yeah,
what's my
yeah,
angle now to talk
yeah. What
about
I'm gonna
something.
say about it? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so I
Understand?
just kind of really fell out of love of music. Like it became a chore. And
Yeah,
very recently, I started kind of getting back into music and I realized like my fandom came out again. And it actually was rekindled by Villa from formerly of him with his
yeah,
new
sure.
album that just came out. And one of the publicists that I deal with all the time, like I literally woke up, checked my email, and saw that he had a new album, a tour was getting announced, and like I was just so excited. Like I immediately emailed her. I was like, oh, "Let's set up an interview. Let's do something." Not even realizing that it was like November and the album wasn't coming out until like the end of January. And I was like, "Oh shit, I got way ahead of myself." But like, I just went and saw him about a week ago, as of today,
Cool,
and to be in a small room again, and it was actually the place I saw you guys last, St. Andrews Hall in Detroit, and
cool.
it just knowing I was going to talk to you a week later, I just was like filled with so many memories of like listening to both of you for so long and kind of having you along for my musical journey for like 20 years, and to be excited
Great.
again that both of you as artists are putting out music that I am excited about, but more importantly, I still see the growth of you as people. Like between what like I was already saying of like listening to this new album of yours and thinking about how you all have still grown, that it still feels like you're energized and love making this music, and that it's your purpose and your passion, to then even seeing Villa playing some of the new stuff off of Neon Noir and some of the older stuff, and even going all the way back and playing stuff off of Greatest Love Songs, which usually it was always It's All Tears, but now hearing When Love and Death Embrace, it was just like, shit, I haven't been this much of a fan and being this excited about music and artists that have been around for almost like a good half of my life at this point. And it's, we not often do we as fans get to say thank you personally to the people that inspire us and do these things to us. But, I have the moment now with you to tell you, like, thank
Thank
you
you.
for the music that you make, because it's getting me excited. It's kind of rekindled my fandom of listening to music and being excited about seeing bands and being in a room with people and getting these records before people and just getting excited about these releases.
Thanks for sharing this, and I think this is this both sides because like what I recently experienced, I think in general like last 3 years got us numb for various reasons, and this is what you're experiencing is just like death of darkness, my friend. So like I think like what has happened to me is like I started during our European tour. I started to this ritual to jump to the audience during some song and sing the chorus with them, like in the middle of audience, and I felt like that was the best high I've got for a long time, and I felt really comfortable to be there, dance and party with my friends every night. Are you
Yeah.
there?
Yeah, no,
Okay, sorry.
I'm listening.
Yeah,
No, I'm
yeah,
listening.
yeah. So yeah. So like my death of darkness was just like on this tour. I got excited about the fact that I'm sort of exorcising the COVID away, and I'm bringing back the vibe for people that we are together experiencing something. And I jump to the audience and I jump around and dance and sing with them, and that's the best high I've got for many years. And like when I started out as a rocker, and I was learning my lessons, I was watching like G.G. Allen live, Locked Interior, Steve Baders, and those guys were like you didn't want to fuck with them, like you were
No.
kind of scared to see them on stage. Same with Iggy Pop. So so when the 69 I started to play, you have to be different. And then the people were sitting in the tables. We were opening act for some bands, so of course I run to the audience and jump to the tables in front of them, singing like as a wild man. And that was like how we started. So, but then again, now after 3 decades, I went to see Palais Royal, fantastic band, and it is like, it's do yourself a favor and go to see them. And my favorite male vocalist at the moment, like a new voice, is Remington. So I saw them 2 nights in Helsinki in a row, and his ritual is just go to the audience, and they have beautiful glammy creature kind of like audience which I haven't seen for years anywhere, that kind of people how with their looks. So he was there, went to the audience and singing, and then we go a couple of days later to tour to Central Europe. And I think honestly, actually, but for real, with my Cuban heels, I think I fell down from the stage originally. But then there I was, like in the middle of people. There was people around me. I was like, okay. Then I started to, continued it like it wasn't accident. It might have been, but so I just continued maintaining my cool and singing the chorus and encourage the people around me to sing and jump along as well. And then I started to repeat it over and over again, and that was really cool. And I realized that this was something to do with getting us all back together. And also for me, it was of course like it started to become like I was nearly addicted to that. And then again, like I felt like I'm like exorcisting COVID away. Instead of like still half a year ago, there was these COVID rules. Mm-hmm. At least I read about them. I wasn't part of that, but I read about that there was like when bands were touring, they're supposed to be in their own bubble or something in the States. So, just like my answer is just jump to the audience and sing there. So, yeah, Death of Darkness. We both experienced that in our own way. You just explained how you did it, and I explained how I did it. So that's a beautiful story, and beautiful me to understand that as well. On the other, what does it mean on the other hand to me?
Well, I think, and I know we got to kind of start wrapping up since our time is done. But to kind of start wrapping up, I think it's been. I feel like you guys have always done that. I feel like you guys have always, I feel like it's a discredit to you all as musicians, and you more so, I think, as a lyricist of the band, when you see a lot of people just kind of fixate on that, your lyrics are tongue-in-cheek and they're this and they're that. And, they're very much that. I mean, you have a song dedicated essentially to, it's an homage to Escape from New York. But yeah. I think the thing is, though, is like when listening to that, even like that song, I feel like you're making more of a social commentary through, like I said, through the prism of entertainment from the 80s. But I think if you really were to look at like what is being said, both the song you created that was inspired by the movie, I think people are kind of missing that there's a lot more to what you're singing and talking about and have been for a long time. And I feel like that's something that is, I hope that people start taking notice of more, and should have all along, but I think you don't get the credit you deserve for being a serious band.
Thank you. That actually has that side. You're right on the spot, because those it sounds kind of movie like I know, like there's some twist in the lyrics, but it's actually like, and it's kind of poetic, but it's actually also a social comment on that song, like world is a bliss. Mm-hmm. And all that. So it's you're right. I'm glad you discovered that, because it's obviously there is the points, but I rather tell that we are teenage goo mucks and we're just playing rock and roll, because that's the other side of it. But there's me who's been doing this long, and the songs are, the lyrics are somewhat my part of my diary, and I can tell you where this and that refers to, and I've lived everything. Even the song would be about this and that. There's part of me there always.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, I know that you got a tour. The Gotta Rock tour is starting in about a month. Unfortunately, you're not coming close to Michigan in any way, shape, or form, or the Midwest. But hopefully, there will be like maybe a fall tour surrounding this, and maybe we can do another one. Or at the very least, I'll make the trek wherever you are, and we can maybe do a chat over some drinks of some sort.
Sure,
And,
sure. And
hang out.
I hope that people, well, we're coming to the States, which is kind of difficult for European bands at the moment, like you probably heard, but we want to do it no matter what it costs. And we're trying out to do a short, like a test drive on the West Coast for Gotta Rock USA, and let's see how it goes. And obviously we are looking forward to coming back for extensive tour, but now these are the baby steps after these 3 years for us all. So let's start it this way, and don't get like don't take it like personal. If we don't show up your local pub.
No
We're gonna do it, but I would encourage people to please make everything that you can come to see, like an 80s band from Finland touring with Pretty Boy Floyd in your country in early May. You know, because it's worth it, and I'm guarantee you will get everything you want from those shows.
Absolutely. Well, enjoy the rest of your day. Safe travels, and until next time, I'll talk to you later.
Well, we're gonna talk to you soon, sir.
Absolutely.
Thanks for this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that was my conversation with Jyrki. Want to thank him for coming on the show and kind of just, really embracing, I guess, kind of the randomness of not really having a scripted thing. And sometimes it is kind of nice to kind of, I don't want to necessarily say focus on the record or to do a quick 20, 30-minute conversation, because I feel like there are times where when you're really getting into the throes of like a good back and forth, that's when your time's up. But it also makes you wanting more, hopefully. And I've been trying to learn as I've been kind of doing some more, personal reflections and so forth, and trying to better myself. I've been doing more to lose weight and be in better, shape. I have some tools now to kind of deal with more of the mental side of things. I've kind of been neglecting some of my actual physical health, so I'm trying to right those wrongs as well. And honestly, that would be something I would love to talk to Jyrki about down the road. I see in the last, I want to say it's been at least a couple years. I'm not sure of when that started, but I know he has since gone vegan. He looks great by all the promo photos and stuff like that I've seen, and some of the live videos I've been seeing on YouTube popping up from their most recent touring, and looks good. He looks very healthy, and as we get older, I think that's the thing, is it turns into a thing where, I know, like, I've gone through it personally, like, where I'm like, man, I just want to drop some weight, and we look for an easy way, and sometimes it's not easy. My wife, kind of going through some health issues with herself, recently kind of, finding out that she's diabetic, and, I really commended her and still commend her for really just getting ahead of it before even her first, official doctor's visit. Started researching a lot of stuff, talked to her family, talked to some other friends that have been going through it, and kind of started making the changes that she knew she would have to make. And I think a lot of times that's the thing that I admire about so many people in my life, is that they just grab life by the horns and just know that things need to be done and that they can't wait. And it's really inspiring to see things like that. And, it kind of gives us, I think, permission to make these changes ourselves, that if someone we see and deal with every day or very consistently in our lives are able to make these drastic changes, then that's what we should be doing as well, that we should take those risks to do that. I'm kind of reminded on a couple of different levels in my like 10 days off. So much has been going on. I went hiking up in the trails up in Zion, and went to the Salt Lake to go to an island basically, and go hiking. And it was a thing where, getting to see, wildlife and kind of like the real challenge and with interesting thing. And I was honestly scared because like I don't really hike. I mean, I walk, but like the joke my wife and I made during this 4-hour hike that we were on is, what's the difference between hiking and walking other than the terrain you're on? And it was a thing where, the last part in Zion, as we're going to this waterfall, like you're having to cross through a stream, like a river, and as we're getting to the last part to get to the waterfall itself, we're having to walk 10 minutes or so into the into the river that's going really fast, so fast that they in fact closed one of the other waterfall things that we were going to go do because the water was so fast moving that they just didn't want people in it and being taken over by it. But it wasn't deep enough. I mean, it was about knee level deep, but it wasn't so deep that that you couldn't stand up, using the sides of the canyon and all that. And it was kind of intense. And I'm like, there are people that do this all the time, and it was cool. But like there were times like climbing some of the stuff, like they had stairs for one, but the next set to get to the next level of the waterfall, it was just like some sticks and some shit propped in a corner on the like crag basically. And I remember thinking to myself, this seems pretty easy to climb up, but when I have to climb down, like I'm not really good with heights and I don't really know how I'm going to do this. But I didn't let that stop me because I saw so many other people going up there and enjoying the sights, and it's just the adventure of it all. And it was something that I knew I needed to start doing because I kind of want to start doing these things and not having that fear. Like, I don't know. I know I'm kind of rambling, but like there's just been so many things happening lately in my life where I just feel like it's a thing that I need to embrace. I need to embrace the challenges. I need to embrace stepping out of my comfort zone and doing things that are going to better myself and give me these experiences that, I think would prevent a lot of us from experiencing these things. Like I said, I have a fear of heights. And as long, like, it's a thing where, like, climbing these things wasn't so bad. But when, like I said, coming down, I realized how high I am and I have to kind of be more strategic coming down. That's when I realized how high up I was in some of these instances. And I was like, oh, my God, I'm really afraid. But I had to calm myself and just do it. And the other thing that has been impacted in, and, I just watched a video right before recording this of, Kevin Smith coming out talking about how he had some mental health issues and went and got through them. And there was a phrase that I kind of latched onto. I mean, it sounds so simplistic when you hear someone else say it and you just kind of go, well, I mean, yeah, duh. But we don't give ourselves the permission to do it. It was, him talking about trauma is trauma. It doesn't matter how big or how small it may seem to someone else. Trauma is trauma. And internally, we can't separate that. Like a trauma that you dealt with as a child and all these other things that you go through day to day, they're all real, and your brain and our bodies can't process them like of important to least important. They just experience it as trauma. And when I kind of thought about that, I think about how we do that with a lot of things. I don't think we are bad at trying to assess what is more important or what's not. And I think even when we do that sometimes, I think we negate what things can be, because something that we may deem as not very big or important are very fucking important. And it's one of those things where, like I said, I'm just trying to be better. I'm trying as I'm getting older. I'm going to be 39 in a couple months, 40's around the corner, thinking about my parents being, almost 70 now. It's a thing where living life and getting older doesn't seem so far-fetched. It's not super unattainable to be 50. Looking at fit, like that's going to be the next thing. When I hit 40, like that'll be my next thing I'm thinking of is what is 50 going to look like? And I hate to say that like I have kind of lived a life very recklessly or anything like that, because I have not. But I'm at a point where I start realizing that I probably need to make changes for the betterment of myself. And I want to shout out some homies, Tyler from Virtue and Dale. You heard me talking with Jake from Gideon. We mentioned Dale at the end of that chat. Dale is a security guard at some of our venues here in Grand Rapids, as well as now as Detroit, as well as just being a great fucking human being, a very positive person that has come into my life. And, I came across the Twitter thing between him and Tyler about like, oh, we want to start an accountability thing to start losing weight and be better. And I realized like, anything you want to do to better yourself, it starts internally. Like you need to want it. Oftentimes we see with, addiction problems and so forth. Like if a person doesn't want it, it's not going to happen. But the other side of that is I think understanding that we can do things with people. It's not a journey we have to take alone, I think is massively important. And so for someone like myself, I just figured it'd be great to have somebody else that I can share my successes in. And I can also kind of share in some of the bad moments that I'm having and not feel like I said, not feeling like I'm alone. And it's been great, just at worst, like the group message that we have going. There have been days where like Dale or Tyler or myself are just not having a good day, and like we'll vocalize some of it. And they're like, yeah, man, me too. I had a pretty shit day today. But you know what? We're going to correct it tomorrow. And it's crazy how even having those little things have helped me mentally, have started helping me physically. Like, I'll put it out there for just an accountability even on this show. At my heaviest, when I started this thing, I was 219. After the vacation, I gained some of the weight, but right before I went on vacation, over the last like 3 weeks of us starting to do this, was down to 205. My goal now, being back from vacation, is to get down to 200 in the next 2 weeks through just some good exercising, eating better, and some other things. So I'm hoping that in 2 weeks from now, I guess in 2 more episodes, I will hopefully be down. I just weighed myself right now, right before I did this, because I haven't since I've been back. I'm at 207.5. So I feel like that should be pretty attainable, honestly. That's my goal. I'm going to work toward it. And then from there, it's really just kind of fine tuning and getting down. My goal weight really is to get about 175, 180 currently. So I'm going to see how that looks. I think it's going to help some of my other health issues. It'll hopefully help my knee problems that I've been having, but also that's from just skateboarding and being a shitty teenager, doing things, and a kid, just randomly playing and not having any regard for my safety. But all that said, I'm going to start wrapping this up because this kind of ventured into more of a personal thing. But like I said, I want to take these intros and outros, and I want them to become something that I think is going to hopefully enrich and help those who are listening and stick around to these, because I honestly just want everyone to be better. I think everyone can be better, a better version of themselves. And I think if you do that, and I think if you focus more on positivity, I think obviously it'll have a drastically different approach to things, and can't help but benefit your life in a more positive manner. So with that said, if you would like to keep up with the 69 Eyes, you can find them on Facebook at the 69 Eyes. Twitter and Instagram are at the 69 Eyes Official. If you would like to keep up with Jyrki, you can find him on Instagram at Jyrki69, JYRKI69, or just simply go to the69eyes.com for all of your 69 Eyes needs. They are touring. I am sad, as you heard at the end, that they are not coming to the Midwest. And I unfortunately will not be able to make it to any of the dates that are happening. But if you are able to, please go check them out on this tour. I don't think I have to say this, but obviously foreign bands coming over to the U.S. to tour, it is imperative that when they tour the States and they come around, you go support them and go see them, because it shows that there is a demand, and then therefore they will be able to start touring over here cost efficiently as they can, and come over here more consistently. I know as a fan of so many bands overseas, I love getting to see them. I try to go see them as much as I can because it's so far and few between. And honestly, it's a small glimpse into what it's like living anywhere else other than the United States, where so many fans of bands don't get to see their bands but maybe once every 4 or 5 years, or maybe longer in some instances, depending on how far away these bands have to tour. All that said, if you would like to keep up with the podcast, you can find us simple enough, BREWspeakPod, on all your social medias. If you want to send me an email, BREWtallySpeaking@gmail.com. If you can rate, review, subscribe, whatever, on whatever platform you're using, please do. Helps us out tremendously. And lastly, I want to thank our sponsors, Rockabilia and Starving Artist Brewery. Finally have a new code for you to use at checkout at Rockabilia. Go ahead and use our code BREW10 at checkout. Take 10% off your total purchase order. So huge thanks to Frankie and Rockabilia for their continued support, as well as Andy and all the rest of the crew over at Starving Artist Brewery. And for the BREWtally Speaking podcast, I am John, and I will talk to you all next time. Enjoy the rest of your week.